Did you know that the Thanksgiving story you learned in school is probably wrong? The peaceful meal between Pilgrims and Native Americans. That's just a tiny, polished piece of a much more complex, and frankly, much more interesting story. Forget the paper turkeys and buckle hats for a moment, because we're about to uncover the real history of Thanksgiving, from its surprising origins to how it became the holiday we celebrate today. It's a tale of survival, politics, and a whole lot of myth. So, let's start with the famous feast of 1621. Yes, it did happen. About 100 English settlers, who we call the Pilgrims, arrived in Plymouth, Massachusetts in 1620. Their first year was brutal. They landed too late to plant crops, and about half of them didn't survive the harsh New England winter. In the spring, they encountered the Wampanoag people, the local Native American tribe. A man named Tesquanum, or Squanto, as you might know him, was crucial. He had been kidnapped by English explorers years earlier, lived in England, and spoke English. He acted as an interpreter and taught the struggling colonists how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, and catch fish. He was their bridge to survival in this new world. After a successful first harvest in the fall of 1621, the Pilgrims' governor, William Bradford, organized a celebratory feast. He invited the Wampanoag leader Massasoit and about 90 of his men. This feast lasted for 3 days. But here's something you might not know. It wasn't really a Thanksgiving in their eyes. For the deeply religious Pilgrims, a day of Thanksgiving was a solemn day of prayer and fasting, not feasting. This 1621 event was more like a harvest festival, a common tradition in both English and Native American cultures. And the menu. It probably didn't include pumpkin pie or mashed potatoes. They likely ate deer, which the Wampanoag brought, along with various fowl, corn, and local shellfish. So, if that wasn't the first Thanksgiving, what was? Well, the colonists held several days of Thanksgiving over the years, but they were sporadic and usually declared to give thanks for military victories or the end of a drought. The idea of a national, annual Thanksgiving holiday was a much later development. For over a century, different colonies and later states celebrated their own days of Thanksgiving at various times. The push to make Thanksgiving a national holiday really gained momentum thanks to a woman named Sarah Josepha Hull. You might know her as the author of the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb, but she was also a powerful magazine editor and writer. Starting in the 1820s, she began a nearly 40-year campaign, writing letters to presidents and politicians, arguing that a national day of Thanksgiving would help unite the country. She envisioned a day for families to gather and give thanks, a moral anchor for a rapidly changing nation. Her persistence finally paid off in 1863, right in the middle of the Civil War. President Abraham Lincoln, looking for ways to foster a sense of unity in a deeply divided country, issued a proclamation declaring the last Thursday in November as a national day of thanksgiving and praise. He hoped it would help heal the nation's wounds. So, the Thanksgiving we know is really a product of the Civil War era, not the Pilgrim era. But the story doesn't end there. For a while, everything was set. The last Thursday in November was Thanksgiving. Then, the Great Depression hit. In 1939, President Franklin D. Roosevelt decided to move the holiday up by a week, to the second Talis Thursday of the month. Why? For purely economic reasons. Retailers had convinced him that an earlier Thanksgiving would create a longer Christmas shopping season, which would boost the struggling economy. This move was incredibly controversial. It was mocked as Franksgiving. About half the country adopted the new date, while the other half stuck with the traditional one. For 2 years, America had 2 Thanksgivings. It was confusing. Finally, in 1941, Congress stepped in and passed a law. They settled on the 4th Thursday in November as the official, permanent date for Thanksgiving, and it's been that way ever since. Now, it's also crucial to understand that for many Native Americans, Thanksgiving is not a cause for celebration. It's viewed as a national day of mourning. The arrival of the Pilgrims marked the beginning of centuries of land theft, disease, and conflict for indigenous peoples. The romanticized story of the 1621 feast often erases this difficult and tragic history. For many, It's a painful reminder of the betrayal and violence their ancestors faced. Recognizing this perspective is essential to having a complete understanding of the holiday's complex legacy. It's not about feeling guilty, but about acknowledging the full, unvarnished truth of our shared history. So, how did Thanksgiving evolve into the turkey and football marathon we know today? Traditions accumulate over time. The turkey became the centerpiece, partly because it was a large bird native to the Americas, big enough to feed a whole family. Sarah Josepha Halley promoted it in her magazine, even publishing recipes. The football tradition started not long after the holiday was nationalized. The first Thanksgiving football games were played between colleges in the 1870s. By the early 20th century, professional teams got in on the action, and the televised games cemented the tradition for millions of American families. And of course, there's the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It started in 1924, organized by Macy's employees, many of whom were first-generation immigrants. They wanted to celebrate their new American holiday with a European-style street festival. The first parade had live animals from the Central Park Zoo instead of the giant character balloons we see today. It was an instant hit and has become an iconic part of the holiday kickoff. So, as you gather with your loved ones this year, remember that Thanksgiving is more than just a single story. It's a blend of a harvest festival, a religious observance, a political creation, and a commercial enterprise. It's a day with a complicated and sometimes painful past, but also one that carries a powerful modern meaning. A time set aside to pause, gather, and reflect on what we're grateful for, whether it's family, friends, health, or just a good meal. That spirit of gratitude is a tradition worth celebrating. Thanks so much for watching and digging into this history with me. What are your family's Thanksgiving traditions? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into history. See you next time.